Hello friends, John here. I'm glad you stopped by. Today I wanted to talk about the TV show Game of Thrones. How it went from the show I loved and told people this is the best show, my most favorite show of all time. And how it then turned into a show I hate, despised, would tell people don't watch it, you're going to be disappointed. In fact, has no rewatchability at all. The seasons I loved are seasons 1 through 4 and had been buying them. These I turned sideways because I did start noticing problems. In season 5, there were things that really irritated me. And I sort of gave them leeway at the time, but in retrospect, I think the problems were a lot bigger. And they were certainly an indication that Dan and Dave, Benioff and Weiss, D&D are horrible writers. Why I still had optimism back then is I guess I was coasting on the goodwill of the first 4 seasons, the characters that I liked. And then also, at the time, I didn't know that George R.R. Martin was a Gardner type of writer that made it up as he went along. And I thought, at the very least, he had ideas of where the major characters and the major plots were going to finish. And I know they were running out of books that he would tell them, but I'm convinced now that he had no ideas. So they are sort of flying on their own with what even to come up with. And like I said, I think they're horrible writers. But any event. Now this is to represent the show. It's actually a drawing I got when I was in kindergarten. A local TV host came. But this is what Drogon turned into, a dramatic, interesting character. That just represents the show. The show turned into a cartoonish joke. So that's the reason I have that up. You can call him Drogon, I guess, or whatever dragon you want to call it. Now, I know I'm late to the game. Many people made videos back when the show ended saying what went wrong and why they disliked it, all the things wrong in individual episodes. I didn't have a camera at the time, and with a renewed House of Dragon interest in Westeros and all, I figured I might as well make it now and just air my disgust, I guess, or at what happened with the original show. And maybe George Martin will decide somehow that he'll finish the book so people will know how it should end. But good luck on that. I have as much luck of winning a multi-million-dollar lottery as that happening. Now, I came late to the Game of Thrones. I never read the books, never heard of them. And when the show first aired, I had HBO, but I didn't watch it. I saw some of the coming attractions briefly and just glimpsed at them and didn't pay attention to them. And I got the impression they were a drama about medieval England. I just remember seeing somebody in maybe armor with a sword fight and maybe a castle or tower. And I really wasn't focused on it or listening to it, or reading and just waiting for a movie and I'm not going to want to watch that show. But anyway, sometime later I canceled HBO. And because the movies I wanted to watch weren't coming on. I did see after that sometime on the internet when I'm looking through the news headlines about what a hit show it was. And I was aware of that, but I never clicked on the articles. I never knew anybody watching the show that told me what it was about. So I still thought it was medieval England. Now, 3 seasons had gone by, and I wanted to watch something on a Saturday. I couldn't find anything on regular television, and I have Comcast that has free samples of the different pay channels to get you to try to sign up, and there were 2 episodes free of Game of Thrones. I'm like, I heard it's popular. Let's see what it's about. And as soon as it started, the guys are riding through the tunnel. I'm like, what kind of castle are they in? And when it came back, looked at the wall, you saw the wall. I'm like, this isn't a castle. What is this? This isn't a castle. Now, they went into the forest. It's very atmospheric. spooky music. Drew my interest right in. Of course, they find the dead bodies and are interested in designs and stuff. It's more and more mysterious. And when the start then attacked by zombies, I love zombies. I'm like, oh, this is nothing that I thought it was. This is entirely different. Then they switched over to Winterfell, and I thought they were effective and efficient at characters, setting out the characters, exposition of the area, the world building. They did a really good job at that, making it interesting with an interesting dialogue, right away, making Ned likable character. So it held my interest the whole way through. And then when Bran got pushed off the thing, I was going to only watch one episode. I'm like, holy mackerel! I gotta see what happens. I gotta watch the second episode, and that was good too. That really interests me. And one thing about those first two episodes that really represents what I like in the show is they had multiple plots going on and subplots. It wasn't just one major plot, one story that everything was connected with. They had the wall, they had the over in Essos, they had Jon Arryn dying. So there's multiple things going on at the same time with multiple people. Eventually they might connect together or branch off. And that's one thing to continue through the seasons that I enjoyed, that something might have been Ned's story was ending with his head chopped off, but it's converting into, okay, now his family wants vengeance, but also the other Baratheons say, hey, we're the rightful ones for the throne. Joffrey's not even, rightful heir to the throne. So it's two separate, but they're sort of connected. It was very well done. Now, just by coincidence, when I was done watching the second show, they advertised it was Watchathon week the next day, starting for a week. Comcast had a thing called Watchathon where they had free episodes for the pay channels of certain things. I'm like, they can't have all the episodes because this was 3 seasons had passed. I'm like, they can't have all of them. And first thing in the morning, I checked. Sure enough, they had season 1, 2, 3. Now I had a drop-down screen, and I wasn't sure, well, how many episodes are there? I'm not going to be able to watch them in 1 week. And I pulled on it. It's 10 episodes on season 1, and then is it that on every episode, on every season? So I clicked on each one. It's, oh yeah, I only have to watch 28 episodes because I watched 2. There's 30. Like, could I watch that in a week? I don't know. I ended up watching them. I had like 2 days left over. It was just like I just start watching them. I had to see the next one. Now, coincidentally, again, with good luck, my sister invited me down for Sunday dinner. And I was like raving about, oh my gosh, have you seen this show? And her husband had, and the 4th season was starting that very night. I'm like, why don't you stay and watch that now? And I was like, oh, great. I got so excited. They said, well, why don't you come down every Sunday and have dinner and then watch the show, which is more fun watching it with somebody. So that was really lucky too. And sometime after that, my sister hadn't been watching, but she started watching. I'm like, this is why you got the Blu-ray. Like, I would bring them down so she could catch up. And it's fun to watch with somebody because you know what's going to happen. To see their reaction. You're like, when nobody believes like that. Ned's not going to get his head cut. They're going to send him up to the wall. Everybody believes that. And then when he's really going to get, no, he's not. And so it's fun to see. Sometime later, her son that was in college had heard about it but hadn't watched it. And then he wanted to see it. And I went down and brought him down and watched it with him. So somebody else to watch. So that was fun too. The thing too is when I watched on the second watch, there were things that I noticed that I picked up that I didn't see the first time. Now, I was watched a lot together, so I was seeing them a lot quickly. But even conversations, say, Robert Baratheon and Ned, I thought it was just a conversation to establish that they were old friends. But within it, they're talking about Ned's sister and all, and I wasn't really paying a lot of attention to the details of the conversation. but it's things that you add together. Like, you should be picking this stuff up, but on the second watch, I'm like, oh, I didn't really pick up on some of that stuff. One of the things I really enjoyed about the show was the number of characters, both major and minor, that were unique or interesting. It astounded me that they were able to have so many packed into so few episodes in time, but I think they did it really effectively and made many interesting characters. Even like a little minor character that the dancing master, his dialogue and the actor that they cast did it quite well. And I forget how a few episodes he was. He wasn't in that many, but he was memorable. But many of the minor characters were like that, and of course many of the major ones too. One of the things I liked is having characters that I understand somewhat. Compared to a show that I did not like is Westworld. All the characters in that were sort of talked in riddles, and I didn't know their motivations. I didn't know what they were, but the whole show was like a mystery for 10 hours and the reveal at the end. But I don't like that kind of thing. I don't mind like some, like Littlefinger, Varys. They can be sneaky. You don't know what they're up to. That's fine. But I want some characters I understand. Ned Stark. He's got a set of values he's trying to hold up to. I understand his motivation. I also like the way it has a story that progresses that I understand, versus the Westworld where all these mysteries and then at the end, here's what it all meant. No, like he's following the John Aaron story. Oh, he died. Oh, maybe he was murdered. He was looking into something. Okay, why was he looking into this? And then, in other words, as each step along the way, I understand what's going on. I don't know where it's going, but I understand it. Now, you can have other mysteries at the same time, like what are the White Walkers up to? What's going on with them or something. You can have some other mystery, but I want a little story that I'm understanding as it's going along. So that's one thing I liked when I was talking about the multi-stories. At least have one little subplot that I'm following as it goes along. I don't want to go 10 hours and not know what the heck's going on. So I enjoyed that. And even if it turns out, I don't like Ned getting his head chopped off, I felt sure he was going to the wall. But also there were characters right away. I did not like Jaime. I did not like Joffrey. What they did, right at the beginning, made him unlikable. So it's good to have some you root for, some you root against, some like Littlefinger, what the world is he up to? It's good to have a mix of characters in the major characters. People like Jon Snow, for a while that was progressing, learning, going forward, building things I like. Now I'm talking about the earlier seasons. I'll get to the later seasons of what it turned into, but right now I'm just saying what drew me into liking it. I like the detail in the world building, the thought put into it, into different locations, different religions, different cultures, different histories that gave it a feel. It wasn't like a localized, okay, this is the one city and everybody's the same. And it's like there was a lot of thought putting in it to give it options for the little subplots and stories, which I really enjoyed in the first seasons. Let's talk about season 5, where I started seeing problems and give you some examples of what those problems were. Let me give you an easy one. It was very short part in, but it's like black and white, nonsensical. Shows how bad D&D are as writers. Jon Snow leaves with wildlings from Hardhome on boats. They barely get away. Many of them don't even get on the boats, get killed and overrun and turned into whites by the White Walkers. But they're lucky enough to get away with some. Where do we see them next time we see them? north of the wall at Castle Black. What are they doing there? How did they get there? They were on boats. Why did they get off the boats north of the wall and walk all the way to the center of the continent? There's no explanation for it. I can't even think of one off screen that could happen to explain it. If a tsunami blew all the boats ashore and wrecked them all, they still could just walk right down the Eastwatch by the sea. They wouldn't walk to the center of the continent. But that's something major. If something major happened, they better dang well show it, because I can't, like I said, imagine anything. That's something critical. So why did they do it? It showed me the minds of D&D. They don't care about the story, the world building that was established, the characterizations. They thought it would be a dramatic, interesting scene. Have the people down there with little children, please let us in. Please open the gates. Oh my gosh, will he open them? He's looking down, that mean guy. Is he going to open the gates? Are you kidding me? Every single one of the people, even a little kid, if they landed the boats north of the wall, would be saying, those monsters are coming. Why don't we keep sailing and go around the other end of the wall? It's just ridiculous. Now, I can understand audience making up something off screen for something minor, and I'll give you an example of that. In The Walking Dead, a lot of people would complain there was a scene and the farm is being overrun by zombies and Herschel's shooting a shotgun, and people like to say, oh, he has an infinite supply of ammunition. Well, he would shoot a few times and then they cut to a scene of somebody being chased by zombies. Like, he could be reloading when they're not showing. They don't have to show everything for something like that. In fact, they even cut back one time and he is reloading. Like, the other times they cut, a shotgun can hold 7 shells, so he doesn't shoot 8 times. I haven't seen it for a while. I'm pretty sure he doesn't shoot 8 times in a row before they cut to somebody else running over here, over there. So that's nothing to complain about. But this, at Hardhome, this is something big. You better explain how this happened and show it. They didn't even sell it because they didn't care. They don't care about the story. They just, as you look forward, I think, too, that's all they care about. A scene. Is it dramatic, exciting, or whatever? They don't care how the story hooks together. So they consequently, they have no story arcs that end in a satisfactory manner in the later seasons. It's just all garbage, no ending at all. But this was just an indication. Now, it was only, I don't know, very short time, in a minute, or I don't know how long it was. It wasn't a long scene, but it shouldn't have been in there. And it aggravated the heck out of me. I even put it on a forum and people were saying, it's no big deal. But I'm like, come on, they're one of the things I liked about the earlier seasons were attention to detail and well thought out characters, circumstances, and the world that's built, and you stick to it. You stick to the details. Okay, a bigger thing, but it's along the same lines, is Sansa willing to marry Ramsay Bolton. She knew that the Boltons were involved in the Red Wedding. She wouldn't agree to marry them, the people that killed her mother and brother. There's no way she would agree to that. It's just poor writing for a character to just go up there and then, you Littlefinger, you can play a game and manipulate him. Like, how? What was she supposed to do? She marries him. He's going to expect to consummate the marriage. Part of the deal is to have heirs to seal the relationship, the goodwill of all the people in the North, like the Starks. That's part of the reason of getting married. He's not going to just say, I have a headache tonight. Okay. And next night I have a headache again. Okay. Or what's that story? Scheherazade or something. I'll read him a story every night and he won't want sex. Like, what do you, absurd. And on the other hand, like, there's no reason Littlefinger would do it either. It was made out in the story he loved her mother, and then she reminded him of the mother. He wanted to marry her himself. He wouldn't give her away if he wanted her as a future wife. And it made more sense to leave her down where she was to help manipulate Robin. He could hold her out as, if you get older and more experience under your belt, you can marry Sansa, and just lie to him and buy time to see what happens in other places. And if chaos is a ladder, marrying her up there is not increasing chaos, it's diminishing the chaos. He wasn't sure what would happen with the battle of Stannis was still alive. He didn't know how the battle would turn out. He didn't know if Stannis could get support up north and everything to go take the castle. What would marrying her, how would that help at all? It wouldn't help at all. From a chaos standpoint or something to climb on, it's better, again, to keep her down and use her to gain influence where he was. He was safe in all aspects, and he could use her later and maybe marry her and see how things turned out. He himself go up with her as a wife up there. The whole thing was absurd. And that was a big thing. Took up a lot of time with that plot. Now, the Stannis thing, too, that was very aggravating. The way that storyline went. That 20 good men could come and burn his whole food supply, or even a bulk of it. How are 20 good men going to set fire to bags of grain and things of that nature, salted pork or something? What would they be carrying as food? The guys couldn't carry anything super flammable. 20 men to set on a food supply for people would be able to wake up and put the fires out. It's insane. And also, to burn his daughter, how close was he to the fort? He had to be very, very close. Why do I say that? 20 good men were able to get there and back safely. But more importantly, before the Battle of the Bastards, Davos is walking around at night. He finds the little toy where she got burned. Well, how far were they away from the fort? The next morning, they were going to have the battle. What are they, a couple hours away? Yeah, it's not snow, but you had some snow. Okay, 3 times, 4 times as much. 8 hours in the snow? You're going to burn your daughter for 8 hours away? A day away? Even 2 days. Say they had to stop and rest another night and walk another 8 hours. 2 days away, you're going to burn your daughter? Insane. And they had to know where they were. He would have had maps of the area from when they were up at the wall. The people there had libraries and books and maps and people that knew the area. He would know how close he was. It's just absolutely insane. And again, the 20 good men could come in there and disrupt the whole camp. Nobody would hear them, and while they could set all the food on fire. It's just insane writing. The Dorne plot was sort of rushed, shoehorned in. It's sort of nonsensical, too. Again, look how much stuff of this in retrospect. At the time, like I said, I sort of, poo-pooed some of it. But when I look back on it, look how much of that stuff was bad. Arya, when she arrived at the Facemasman place, I was really disappointed starting here. In the 4th season, it was really great how it ended. She gave the coin and got on the ship, and she's out on looking, and the music was really good. The really good music kicks in, and it's so optimistic. Boy, this is going to be great. But she arrives there, and it's just like really bad. Like they didn't know what to do with her. Like she's going to be sweeping the floor, washing bodies. As the seasons went on, they never did anything adequately. She went from one of the characters I really liked when she was traveling with the Hound and they were interacting, and he gradually got to like her and he was trying to teach her and stuff. I enjoyed those in that seasons. But once she got to Essos, I hated it. I mean, I just hated it. And then they turned her into like a Mary Sue where she knew how to do everything. Like all they showed her was like blind with stick fighting. They never really showed her. Now she gets back later seasons that she's an expert with a blade fighting Brienne, a trained knight expert. Like they never showed her training with that. They could have made a montage of her learning different things real quick. montage of all kinds of things. Instead of making like later a montage of Sam picking up pots, people went to the bathroom and then food, and like for how long? 5 minutes or something. Like, really? You're going to show that, and you're not going to show her being trained? And it's just really, really bad. Really bad. Now let me talk about, in general, how they dropped the ball. One of the things that irritated as it went on was Jon Snow. All the buildup in the early seasons of him being a bastard, who was his mother, and he wanted so much to know who the mother was and everything. And his lineage is finally found out. He doesn't talk about it at all. Who did he talk about it in depth with? Nobody. He didn't talk at all. Did he? What happened when he goes to tell his sisters? What did they think of it? I don't know. They cut away. You didn't even see their expression of them. Nobody talking. You think all kinds of dramatic dialogue he could have. Talking with his sisters, how he felt about it. What did they think about it? Talking with his friend more about what does he think of the lineage? How about talking in depth with Daenerys? How did that affect their love affair? Is that why he pulled her away? Because he thought they're related? Or I don't know. I'm supposed to imagine in my mind a dialogue. They should talk it out them. Did Daenerys think it's okay? Well, and Targaryens marry an aunt's not so bad. Even if you're brother and sister, it's okay. Like, I don't know. They could have talked it out. Absurd. No payoff for all that buildup. And then all the buildup with Jon Snow again, going up and training at the wall and becoming a leader and facing off with the White Walkers at Hardhome and everything. And then come their destruction, well, they didn't think it would be right for him to kill her. We'll have Arya do it. It's like, are you kidding me? If you set something up so much over time, you need to have a payoff. He was the one involved with the wall the whole time. He should be involved in the dramatic fight killing the Night King. Defying expectations. I think D&D had no idea. They think if you just do something unexpected, that makes it good. But the defying expectations that I enjoyed of like Ned Stark, it wasn't expectations of what Joffrey would do or what would happen because of the characters or the setting or the story. It was my expectation of a writer in our universe would do. That's why I thought Ned would go up to the wall and later become the hero and all. Not anything that I saw in the story. So when he got his head cut off, it was satisfying in that it defied what I thought a writer would do, but it actually made perfect sense because we saw Joffrey's a liar. He's sadistic. Of course he would do it. Why wouldn't I expect him to do it from everything I've seen that they've laid out in the story carefully? Of course, it makes perfect sense. Now, when it got to the Red Wedding, I was sort of shocked before the wedding that Walder Frey sort of agreed to other things after it was laid out that he was insulted and he put down and everything for years, that people treat him with disrespect and everything. And I'm like, well, gosh, now that Rob gave him the ultimate insult, why is he even having anything to do with him? So I was sort of surprised before the Red Wedding that he was cooperating. So it still shocked me what happened because I didn't figure that out as a possibility of something he could do, but it made perfect sense for his character. Of course he's insulted. They showed him telling the people that they always disrespected him. That's the biggest disrespect, to make a promise like that and then just like thumb your nose at him. And so that made sense. But D&D seemed to think, well, we'll do something to surprise them, and that boy, they'll really love that. But it made no sense for Arya to do it, to kill the Night King. Plus, the way they did it was absurd with her. How did she get by all these hordes and hordes of whites, and all of a sudden she jumps out of the sky. Now, how did she get by all those? It's like, if you're going to do it, at least use her training, have her pull off a white face or something. Then that's how she got by. She walked by using her skills, and not jump out of the sky, out of like materialize out of being invisible or something. What, did she learn how to be invisible? It's just absurd. So the resolution of the two big things would be the White Walkers and Daenerys. Is I was hoping after the sixth season, I was hoping one of those would just be adequate. I knew they wouldn't have a great ending. After season 6, and they were saying, 13 episodes, I'm like, there's no way they can tie all this up satisfactorily. But I was figuring maybe one of them, it won't be good or great, but maybe satisfying. It makes sense. But neither of them were. Neither of the big endings were. Like I said, the final battle was absurd. It was so dark. All the excuses they can make. We had a good high definition TV and all that. It was too dark to see what was going on. Two of the strategy and tactics they did was, every one of them was absurd. I don't have to go in details of all that. And that's one thing I liked about earlier episodes. Little details were logical and made sense. They talked any number of times how a fort could be defended against much greater numbers of people because it was built so well. So whatever the numbers were, they could easily defend this fort or that fort, or it's hard to take a fort. With like Ramsay went in with a re-trick them to get them out because it's hard to kill it. That's the whole idea of a fort. So what did they do? What did they do in fighting the White Walkers and all? We'll have most of the people outside of the fort. Instead of having the walls lined up top with people shooting the arrows. No. And it wasn't wall-to-wall people, because even when they eventually retreated back in, get in on the walls. You should have been up on the walls, shoulder to shoulder anyway. You shouldn't have been out there. And then they're in front of the big moat, or dug in the ground around it. Like, we got to retreat over. Why aren't you behind it with your spears? With spears that you can jab the things with the dragon glass on there. So if they fall in, even if they start stacking up, you can just stab them. Have people with torches all around it, so you don't need one person to light the stuff, that they can light it. Or in earlier seasons, you just touched them with the torch and the thing just like a dry tinder went up, and all of a sudden, no, they're hard to light on fire all of a sudden. Like, come on. Oh, man. Plus the people get wiped out, and then all of a sudden, how many we have? We like, all that the factory got wiped out. Oh, there's a bunch of them now. We have when we go down against Cersei. Where'd they come from? Jeez, I thought they got all wiped out. Like, what the heck? Oh gosh. And one of the things they did too with the Daenerys and all, they really set themselves up for bad writing, which multiplied and built on itself. One bad thing led to another, magnified as it went along. By that I mean, Daenerys' forces were overpowered with just what she had. But then they wrote it such that Dorne and Highgarden would join on with her. Well, Dorne and Highgarden by themselves probably had enough people to take Cersei and the Lannisters out. Dorne didn't even participate when all the Stannis and everybody was fighting the Lannisters and all that stuff going on. So their army should be intact. And they were so strong that they were able to hold out against the Targaryens long ago, even with the dragons. They should be good fighters, top-notch fighters, untouched. They should be able to just go up there and slaughter her, and with the High Garden people themselves before, without even Daenerys coming over. Now you ally them with her, like it should be a cakewalk. And as we saw, the one dragon at the end is enough to go and just burn the whole wall down. They should have just, man. So then with those, they had to find stupid ways to get rid of them or diminish them. But, you kill some ships with the leaders of Dorne. And does it kill all the armies of Dorne? Are they all gone? They don't have any land armies that are left. They were all on the boats, every one of them. So then Tarly, changing against and becoming a traitor. Would he do that? Plus, they march down, easily get over, as I was talking about, the castle walls. Why? Because they have flowers as their sigil. What? Flowers on their sigil makes them bad fighters? Of course. Yeah, that makes perfect logical sense. It's funny how great an army they were when Stannis was fighting, that they were really important and came up and, like, in the clinch and helped save King's Landing. But all of a sudden, the flowers made them wilt away in their fighting ability. And defending a fort, they just march up and easily take it. Now, Daenerys lands on Dragonstone. What did we see about Dragonstone from earlier episodes? They don't have any animals. They don't grow any crops. What do they get? Some fish from the sea or something. So you're going to land your army there, men, horses, on the island. And remember, too, Dorne and Highgarden were her allies before she reached shore. Why don't you land on Dorne or go up somewhere closer to Highgarden, land up there? They got all the food up there. You can feed your horses and your men, cut off King's Landing from your food supply. There you go. But no, they land on, they're going to stay on Dragonstone. And what are the horses eating? I don't know. So they need food. So she's going to go down and the loot train. The Lannisters got all this food. They got the gold, but they're getting all the food and stuff. And plus hay and stuff for the horses. All big wagons upon wagons. So she comes. What does she burn? There's a line of soldiers like this. Do you go down like this and burn the line of soldiers? No, I'm going to burn all the wagons with all the food. Your guys don't need food. Your horses don't need food. Why don't you burn the men? The wagons are heavy. Even if they take off trying to run, your Dothraki on your horses can ride them down and kill the drivers and take look at all that food you would have had. And, we don't need food. And then afterwards, they show the Dothraki going through the smoldering heap. I found a burned old charred sword. Wow. Hey, look at the wagons of food you could have been eating. What are you going to feed? What are you going to eat now back on Dragonstone? It's just so irritating that the lack of logic in writing the story. Well, yeah, it looks neat if you put your brain in a complete neutral and don't think at all. Just look at the special effects. Wow, why not have a transformer pop out? Well, that thing transformed. That dragon turned into a big truck, a fire engine. Wow, that's really neat. I could have done that too, Oh, brother. I'm really getting rammed up now. So, what else was bad? Let me think here. So, now let's get to the Daenerys. So she completely flips out and just starts burning the whole place. And And I still can't believe there are people that say, of course, she showed she could be cruel to people before and she burned some people and things. And it's like, oh, she went out of her way to protect women and children and even slaves. There was a case where they said, take the boats and just leave. And she said, no, as long as there's slaves in the city, I'm going to stay and free these people. If she was just totally heartless and cruel and uncaring, she would have just got on the boats and been over there to go after a throne, but she didn't. She's like, I'm going to free these slaves. And even after freeing them, I'm going to stay and stabilize the place so that they don't come back and start re-enslaving the people. She locked up her dragons because they burned a kid. So now all of a sudden, like this, she's going to start burning women and children and innocent people deliberately, not accidentally, but deliberately going up and down at a drop of a hat. Crazy. That's just insane. The writing was insane, not Daenerys. And the resolution, how they picked the king in that final episode, it's just so absurd that final episode, just so absurd, so bad, but everything that added into it, it's like, why is Jon Snow even in prison? They would have just killed him immediately if he came up and told them. He had to come up and tell them. If he walked out, they wouldn't have known what happened to her. The dragon took her and flew away. He had to come out and say, oh, I killed your queen. What do you think the reaction would have been? It wouldn't be, I'm going to put you in jail for a trial later. They would just killed him. They would have just killed him right away. It's just insane. And then to sit there and say, well, we're going to have a trial. Let me recommend and listen to Tyrion. They would sit there and listen to Tyrion. First of all, he would have been killed too. And then Jon Snow's lineage again. Go back to that. It was so important to set that up over all that time. Nobody brings it up when they're talking about a king. Nobody even mentions the meaning. It means nothing. Nobody cared about it. It was meaningless. No, it was pointless even having him be a Targaryen. And some people say, oh no, it worried Daenerys and added to her. How did it worry her? Nobody liked her. Nobody liked her as a Targaryen. There weren't mobs of people saying, oh, we're glad Targaryen is back in Westeros. Not a single person. The people up north were happy at him for being a northerner. If they found out he was a Targaryen, they wouldn't have liked him more. So the fact that he was a Targaryen shouldn't have affected her. She wasn't a stupid person. She could see nobody reacted to her being a Targaryen, was all happy, not a single soul. So it was pointless from that aspect too. Switches, so much potential and so much setup, just destroyed and flushed down the toilet with no resolution. None of the characters had a satisfactory resolution, story arc, growth. Jamie, there's points they could have if he'd walked away from Cersei and stayed away from her. Or even if you wanted him to stay loyal, he should have never gone up north at all. He should have said, you know what, I love my sister so much. If that's what it's going to be, don't have him walk away and then come back. Or if he came back to try to save her somehow, but he shouldn't have been there in the first place, really. He should have just stayed. Things like Bronn. The minor characters were good in the beginning seasons. They took him, the audience likes him, and they pumped him up into some kind of Gary Stew or something. He was like, he should have been gone a long time ago. And it's like, oh, we're going to make him master of the coin or something. What? He doesn't even know about lending money or anything. He shouldn't even be around. Like, he goes up and blackmails him, up with a crossbow or whatever. It's like, oh, screw you. Why would they even honor it? Say, get the heck out of here, you know? Sansa with Arya saying, "Oh, you're the smartest." What did she do that was smart? What did she do that was smart? She didn't do anything. The writers, if they wanted her to be smart, have her do smart things. Don't have characters say, "Well, you're the smartest person I know." Really? What did she do smart? And then Bran is king because he has a good story. Come on. And none of the others, the Iron Islands didn't object. Dorne didn't object. It's just like Sansa says, "I don't want my own brother. I don't want to be under him." Don't you think the others would say, "Wait a second. Yara wanted to be independent the whole time. All of a sudden she's going to go along with Bran when Sansa wouldn't." The same with Dorne. Why would they go along? Oh my gosh. Anyway. I was sort of jumping around with my thoughts, but I happened to thinking about Bran. They never really developed him much about what his powers were. He essentially did nothing when the White Walkers were fighting him. And one thing I wondered about, the White Walkers, they never really established very well what they wanted. They made out like, well, they wanted to kill the Three-Eyed Raven, which became Bran. But my question would be, if I was somebody that Bran said that, he's coming after me. They made it appear that the Night King wanted to personally kill Bran. So if I were in one of those group of people, I'd say, is that he wants to kill you personally? Then what? Does he still want to kill people, or is that his only goal? Is he collecting an army of people just to help him get to the Three-Eyed Raven and kill him? Will he be satisfied and go back north? Because why surround Bran? We're going to let him here so the Night King will come to him, but we're going to surround him with people and protect him. If he wants to kill them personally, all right, let him. Why put everybody in front of him? Here's a dragon glass weapon, Here's a Valyrian steel dagger. He's going to come. You kill him, Bran. And if Arya wants to hide behind a tapestry or something, put him in a hallway where the thing has to come down. He knows he can tell by the mark where he is. You can hide behind the wall, Arya, and jump out and get him. Why risk everybody else's life if that's what he's going to do? There you go, Bran. You kill him. I'm sort of saying it half jokingly, but not really. Why risk everybody's life? It's like when Jon Snow offered to fight one-on-one before the Battle of the Bastards. We'll settle this bastard to bastard, one-on-one. And Ramsay didn't want to. Well, okay, Bran, you settle it one-on-one. Why risk everybody's life and get them all killed? Because it ultimately has to be to kill him, and he's going to reveal himself to kill you anyway. But no, really, anyway. But Bran's potential of his magic and everything, it wasn't used in any effective way. The only really interesting thing I think he did is with the Hodor story, the Hold the Door. That was kind of interesting how that worked out. But beyond that, it was sort of pointless. His powers or lack thereof. Well, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I'd like to hear your opinions. If you like the show and turned to hating it like I did, what did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? What point did you start to change your feelings about it? I'd like to hear. Please leave some comments. Thank you.